Hello all, James here, and yes, it is absolutely true. John Cena is being taken to federal court along with WWE, TKO, Jacob Brian Dutton, who's a music producer, a publisher called Pix Russ Music, and a lady called Cynthia Joe Russell. To show you, the guy goes by Jake One, that's Jacob Brian Dutton. He is the producer who mixed John Cena's theme, My Time Is Now, and the other people we will get to in a short while. Now, this is, as you may well guess, all in regards to John Cena's theme music, My Time Is Now, which has been John Cena's entrance song since about 2005, and the album itself came out in March 2005, just before the WrestleMania, where I believe that would have been WrestleMania 21, where Cena won his first world title. And the album actually got released quite a few places, and I believe it got to number 11 in the US Billboard 200. I think it only got to like 100 and something in the UK, but I actually remember seeing it in HMVs being sold. It even had like its own little stand and everything for it, so they were really pushing it back in the day when, you know, occasionally a CD might actually be sold still, even though, you know, music sharing and file sharing and everything was rife at that point. Now, in the lawsuit filed this past Tuesday, it was only reported yesterday, and late yesterday as well, I think. This was filed in the District of New York, and it's being brought forth by the daughter of a musician called Pete Schofield, Kim Schofield. Now, to boil all of this down to you so it's a bit more digestible, is that Pete Schofield and the Canadians put out a record in 1974 called The Lights Went Down to Georgia. Now, if you're wondering, I don't know why you'd be wondering, you probably guess why I'm not actually playing any of these songs. It's because my video will be blocked immediately, so I'm not going to be playing any. But I am going to be leaving all the links in the description, and if I remember, also the comments, the pinned comment as well, so you can listen to all these in order as well, so it all makes sense in your head. Anyway, Pete Schofield and the Canadians, as you saw with that album cover, was releasing a song in 1974 called The Lights Went Down to in Georgia. I keep saying down Georgia. I'm thinking Gladys Knight, I think. Now, it opens up that song with the now iconic horns that were later sampled in the Time Is Now, or My Time Is Now, John Cena's theme. Now, unfortunately, once again, I can't play any of these, but you know the horn section, and it's sampled all the way through. You can't mistake it, and it's a direct sample from the Pete Schofield song. Now, WWE, and you might actually think, well, okay, it's been sampled, it's obvious, it's a complete takeoff of it, and it goes all the way through the song. It's got to be a slam dunk, surely, this legal attempt at getting some money out of this. But anyway, WWE did actually already reach a settlement with Kim Schofield, once again the daughter of Pete Schofield, of the song in question. Now, Kim claimed that she owned the copyrights to the horn section and to her late father's work. So, back in 2017, she received an offer, which she took, of a one-time payment of $50,000 back in, once again, 2017. Now, why did it take so long for Kim to even go to court if the song was composed in like 2002, 2003, and then brought to prominence by John Cena in 2005? Well, she claimed she hadn't actually heard the song until a reporter contacted her in 2015 who was doing a story on the Cena theme, so clearly not a wrestling fan. Anyway, shortly after WWE and the Schofield estate settled, My Time Is Now was featured on a Toyota ad that aired in the United States, but not Canada, where Kim resides. Now, this is a problem because WWE never mentioned anything about how widespread or maybe popular the song was, or at least had the potential to be, at least commercially speaking. And in fact, they told Kim that the song had, quote, limited value. Now, if you know much about the music industry, rights to songs can go for an incredibly large amount of money. So when I saw $50,000 to basically release the rest of the rights to the song to WWE, I thought that was actually quite cheap for what it was in that day and age, and especially in this day and age. Now, this commercial use for that kind of song goes against, as Kim claims, WWE's argument, which is why the one-time payment to Schofield, once again, is comparatively low. Now, immediately after the ink is dried for this $50,000 one-off payment, My Time Is Now is then part of a national ad campaign, which of course flies in the face of the song having, quote, limited value, especially limited commercial appeal. Now, in her complaint, Kim asserted that her filing, that WWE's process of securing the rights to the horn sample was, quote, greedy and, quote, opportunistic. Now, Kim's intellectual property lawyer, who had been working on contingency and had been chasing up WWE and TKO over this matter, withdrew from the case back in April of 2025. So now Kim Schofield is representing herself against TKO, as well as in a separate lawsuit against someone called Dumar 1K, who also sampled the same horn arrangement. There's also a separate argument happening with WWE, and I'm going to find it for you one more time. Here we go. It's this video. All of these are on YouTube as well, and once again, I will link all of these for you. That's back in 2019, WWE released a reworked and re-recorded version of the John Cena theme called The Time Is Now, Champ Is Here. Now, I don't know if I've been saying My Time Is Now all the way through, but it's called The Time Is Now. I've already tried to record this video a couple of times and I kept flitting between them, but I've just given up. You'll just have to accept I'm wrong half the time on that one. Anyway, that version of the song was re-recorded, and it's more downbeat and a more orchestral version of the original Cena theme. Now, Schofield claimed that this re-recording of the Pete Schofield horn arrangement violated the terms of their 2017 agreement. So, the reuse was not covered in the initial agreement, so Kim claims. Kim is now asking the court to aid her in recovering damages from WWE, TKO et al., to the tune of in excess of $150,000. Kim is also arguing that WWE failed to give PS Records proper credit, which I imagine stands for Pete Schofield, as the 2017 settlement required, according to her. But there's actually a more pressing issue here than all of what I've said, is that Kim Schofield is claiming that her father's horn arrangement is an original, and therefore his estate, which is her, owns the rights to that particular hook. But The Lights Went Down in Georgia by Pete Schofield and the Canadians is not by Pete Schofield and the Canadians, it's a cover. The original song, if I can find it here, there we go, was actually composed several years earlier by somebody called Bobby Russell and then originally sung by Vicki Lawrence. Now, the tune was recorded and released with the most success later on by Reba McEntire, who's, I imagine a lot of people have heard of her. Now, in the original Vicki Lawrence version, the horns are not present, but the hook is, but it's played on an organ instead. Now, the real legal quagmire here is because Pete Schofield copied that arrangement on a cover of a song that he did not compose, but he copied it on a different instrument, that little hook, that little sample. So he played it on a different instrument with the horn, or whatever kind of horn it was. Does his estate therefore have any stake in the sample's intellectual property? Well, the Schofield estate is not claiming the original works of the Bobby Russell original song that was originally sung by Vicki Lawrence. But Kim Schofield is claiming copyright over the intro and outro of the Pete Schofield version. Now, this is despite her father's version of the hook having the same, or at least incredibly similar, chord progression to the original. Now, unsurprisingly, the Russell estate, led by Bobby's widow Cynthia, I mentioned her name at the beginning of this video, is challenging that copyright claim. And now the Russell estate claim that the Pete Schofield version is unauthorized and derivative work, and they are also battling it out over royalties to that song. So how that sort of is going to affect WWE and John Cena's affairs, I guess, with that song, because Kim Schofield sold that sample to WWE for a one-off fee, but then was it hers to sell in the first place? So it gets even more complicated. Now, with the defendants having 21 days to respond to this from Tuesday, so I think that'll be, Christmas Eve? basically, or the 23rd. The real issue here is whether the Schofield estate have any claim to the sampled hook that in itself was a derivative cover of a previous song that the original composer's estate claimed was unauthorized. All gets very confusing. But this reminds me, this story, somewhat of the Verve's Bittersweet Symphony, where the Rolling Stones claim, keep up with me here, claimed sole writing credits to Bittersweet Symphony, right? Despite the sampled hook from Bittersweet Symphony never appearing on the original recording of the Rolling Stones The Last Time. Now, where the sample came from, the violin sample, was taken from an orchestral reimagining of the Rolling Stones classic of The Last Time, yet somehow the Stones still owned that particular hook that they never composed in the first place, yet somehow they own it because somebody else covered it, then made up a completely different section to put into the song, but still the Stone. It's very weird. But anyway, music IP is damn complicated and incredibly interesting, actually, as well, if you're an armchair lawyer such as I'm not, because I wouldn't even say I was that good. I barely know anything at all. But, you know, from Robin Thicke to Ed Sheeran, the major lawsuits that followed, and I believe like Two Live Crew, a couple of other people, I don't know if like a Tribe Called Quest and others, De La Soul, that saw hip-hop artists no longer being able to sample anything they wanted, with gay abandon back in like 1993 or so. So if you're ever wondering why hip-hop was so great until like the early to mid-90s, that's pretty much the reason. And everything in between. But this is a wrestling-related channel, and that's how it shall remain for now. So I'm not going to be doing any more music, intellectual property, anything content on this channel unless it somehow relates to wrestling. But there is one more fact. Jake One, who was the original composer that we saw an image of at the beginning of this video, he composed, obviously, The Time Is Now, or My Time, it is The Time Is Now, earned a one-off fee for $60,000 from WWE for that composition, which I thought was amusing because that is more than what Kim Schofield got in the settlement over 10 years later. Then WWE probably made many multiples of that back less than a week later when Toyota secured the rights to use the song for their ad campaign. Just one of those things I thought very amusing. But who knows? The lawsuit's going to have to figure out if Kim or the Schofield estate actually does have intellectual property rights over those horn sections. And if they do, is she then going to sue WWE for basically, as she claims, lying to them about how much appeal the song had? So, all interesting stuff for me anyway. I hope it was for you. Please like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to have a load of links everywhere because I've got the original article here from Post Wrestling. They did a really great job on explaining all of this as well. So I encourage you to read that as well. Have a listen to all the songs and tell me what you think in the comments. I'll see you for the next video.